Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. We'll begin in 2 minutes.
The commercialization of the courts. Scene 1. Walk into any courthouse in Texas or anywhere in America and the facade shouts what's inside. Criminal courts, civil courts, family courts, the massive towers of stone, a charade so secret until now. Inside, the machinery is the same, operating pursuant to civil rules using simple accounting and ledgers. Every so-called court is really a commercial court in disguise. What exactly are the massive towers of stone called courts? Like clowns in a circus, different venues for the same circus. Here in Texas, according to Dun & Bradstreet, these courts are legally called the Judiciary Courts of the State of Texas Incorporated and listed as a subsidiary of the State of Texas Incorporated, established by the people of Texas in 1845. Join me now on a journey as I explain every facet of these commercial proceedings, from the initial charge to the final discharge, and everything in between of the commercializing of the courts as for-profit corporations, where the commodities such as assets and liabilities are really humans unwittingly caught up in one-sided adhesion contracts. Scene 2. The accusation equals presentment. It begins with suspicion. A police officer claims probable cause. A neighbor submits a sworn affidavit. On the surface, that's an accusation, but in commerce, it's a presentment. Commercial paper flowing forward, waiting for acceptance. Acceptance creates obligation. Obligation demands performance. A contract on the sly, signed, sealed, and delivered, all without your knowing hand. Scene 3. The warrant equals draft check. Next up is the ever-popular warrant. Search warrants, bench warrants, and arrest warrants. They call it an order, but in commerce it is a check, a draft, a security. The judge draws it seeking an endorser, which is you. A law enforcement officer presents the warrant. However, so far, neither you, or the law enforcement officer know that it is really a financial transaction now gone seriously sideways. The pen really is mightier than the sword in this case. When the warrant fails to be legally endorsed to settle the matter, well, then someone has to pay up. That someone is you. Your body is the collateral, signed, executed, enforced, presentment, and acceptance. Here and above, there was no acceptance. The judge, his or her honor, have now been dishonored. When the warrant was presented, you didn't accept and endorse. It was then enforced to the fullest extent of the law. Scene 4. Police equals policy enforcers. Booking equals inventory. 5-0. 5-0's here. It's the popo. Everybody run. Run, everybody run. Knock knock knock. And the not-so-friendly policeman arrives. Policy enforcers. They don't just arrest. They process suspects into custody. How exactly? Custodianship, transportation, housing, fingerprinting, mugshots, classification, assignment, ledgered as a number in the storage facility commonly known as jail. That's chain of custody, and in commerce, the chain of title. You've been entered as inventory, a unit on the ledger, counted, tracked, reconciled. Now you wait your arraignment or bail and a bailer to submit a bond as the surety, for your promise to pay, and promise to appear, as the bailee. Scene 5. The charge equals credit. They say you are charged with a crime. In law, that's accusation. In commerce, it's credit posted to an account. Credit on account. The prosecutor drafts the charging instrument. The judge charges the jury. Same word, same ledger. If not settled, it moves to the secretive grand jury for further proceedings, and the market decides does the grand jury issue a true bill or no bill, a validated instrument or a dishonored instrument. Our bills have to be paid to stay in honor within our contracts. If we don't, bad things start to happen beyond our control. It is better to have been no billed than to have been billed at all. Scene 6. Pre-trial equals plea bargaining. Before trial begins, the bargaining starts in earnest. They call it pre-trial posturing, but it is a negotiation, a meeting of the minds, a time when bargaining takes on an entirely new meaning. The prosecutor says, "I'm offering 10 years today. If you don't take the 10 today, it's 15 years next hearing. Take the deal. You'll be out on parole in a few years." 5, 10, 15, 25, or 60 years. Pressure, anxiety, and high stakes abound. That's settlement. Like creditors issuing loans, pay early, pay less. In this case, an adhesion contact most cannot afford. Avoid the cost of trial, punishments, and penalties by taking the deal. Scene 7. Grand jury equals bill or no bill. When the bargaining fails to reach an agreement, the grand jury begins deliberations within 120 days of the alleged offense. The prosecutor then proceeds to convince the grand jury of probable cause, and must prove enough evidence to proceed further with a trial by jury. The grand jury, having heard all testimony and evidence, must choose between indictment, or no indictment, or in commercial terms, presents either a true bill or a no bill. A bill is always commercial, a bill of exchange, a bill of lading, a dollar bill. Here, a bill of indictment, validated paper, or rejected paper. Either way, it's commerce and it's criminal. What takes place in the hallowed halls of justice? It's always about money. Scene 8. Trial equals marketplace of claims. The trial by jury is the marketplace. Evidence is tendered. Objections are reservations. Motions are applications. Having heard all the testimony and evidence, The judge charges the jury to find whether you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or not. Having found you guilty as charged, the judge then issues the warehouse receipt, your judgment and sentence, which meets all requirements pursuant to the Texas Business and Commerce Code Section 7.202, in which we will cover in detail later in the video. In finance, it fixes a debt. In criminal law, it fixes terms and condition, fines, fees, and penalties, but it's the same act. Obligation entered, inventory added to the financial institution. Just like a financial institution, Texas has institutions, prisons called the TDCJ Correctional Institutions Division. The accounting ledger now reflects your debt to society, complete with credits, debits, trustees, trust funds, and stored in a prison unit. Scene 9. Charge to the jury equals charge to the ledger. The judge says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I now charge you in law instruction. In commerce credit to the account." The jury now holds the ledger and they reconcile the ledger by the jury for person endorsing the charge to the jury and presenting it to the judge for issuance of the warehouse receipt. Scene 10. Sentence equals term of debt. The jury's verdict returned like an obligation. Another presentment seeking an acceptance performance. Now, the black-robed neutral party, the judge, then admonishes you, stating you are a danger to the citizens of Harris County, Texas. Therefore, by the authority vested to me by the state of Texas Incorporated, you are sentenced to a term of not less than 60 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Correctional Institutions Division. A term with conditions, state fines, court fees, and of course, the penalty. In law, a sentence; in commerce, the maturity of a debt. 60 years, a 60-year obligation to maturity. You are the collateral pledged for the 60-year term. Scene 11. Remand equals transfer of collateral. Then the words that seal it. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff. Collateral transferred. The sheriff delivers the goods from county jail to TDCJCID, from one warehouse division to another. Here is Section 7.202 of the Texas Business and Commerce Code that state the exact 9 requirements of a warehouse receipt in Texas, and is 7-202 in the Uniform Commercial Code. The title: Form of Warehouse Receipt. A warehouse receipt need not be in any particular form. B. Unless a warehouse receipt provides for each of the following, the warehouse is liable for damages caused to a person injured by its omission. Requirement number 1. The location of the warehouse facility where the goods are stored. Requirement for number 1. TDCJ Correctional Institutions Division. Requirement number 2. The date of issue of the receipt. Requirement for number 2. The date of the sentencing. Requirement number 3. The unique identification code of the receipt. Requirement for number 3. Case or cause number. Requirement number 4. A statement whether the goods received will be delivered to the bearer, to a named person, or to a named person or its order. Requirement for number 4. Defendant to be remanded to the custody of the sheriff. Requirement number 5. The rate of storage and handling charges. But if goods are stored under a field warehousing arrangement, a statement of that fact is sufficient on a non-negotiable receipt. Requirement for number 5. Court fees, fines, penalties, and other credits, debits, terms, and conditions. Requirement number 6. A description of the goods or the packages containing them. Requirement for number 6. Your name. Date of birth. Race. And gender. Requirement number 7. The signature of the warehouse or its agent. Requirement for number 7. The judge representing the state of Texas Incorporated. Requirement number 8. If the receipt is issued for goods that the warehouse owns, either solely, jointly, or in common with others, the fact of that ownership. Requirement for number 8. Custodianship via remand to the sheriff to TDCJC. Requirement number 9. a statement of the amount of advances made and of liabilities incurred for which the warehouse claims a lien or security interest. But if the precise amount of advances made, or of liabilities incurred is at the time of the issue of the receipt unknown to the warehouse, or to its agent that issued the receipt, a statement of the fact that advances have been made, or liabilities incurred, and the purpose of the advances, or liabilities is sufficient. Requirement for number 9. This would include days spent in jail, or credits of incarceration prior to sentencing. C. A warehouse may insert in its receipt any terms that are not contrary to this title and do not impair its obligation of delivery under Section 7.403 obligation of warehouse or carrier to deliver excuse or its duty of care under Section 7.204 duty of care contractual limitation of warehouse's liability. Any contrary provisions are ineffective. Until you see this side-by-side comparison of the judgment and sentence and the 9 requirements of Texas Business and Commerce Code Sector 7.202, you would never believe you have been warehoused by your state, with secret backdoor accounting, the 60-year bond, or promise to pay the state's monetary debts, and substantiate the for-profit corporate status of the Judiciary Courts of the State of Texas Incorporated. The subsidiary of the State of Texas Incorporated. Scene 12. Judgment and sentence equals warehouse receipt. The paperwork is called judgment and sentence. But in truth, it is a warehouse receipt. It names the item. It lists the charges. It sets the term. In commerce, a warehouse receipt certifies goods for storage. In criminal law, it certifies a person for custody, subject to charges until discharge. Scene 13. Prison equals warehouse. Count time equal inventory. And now you are stored in the vast prison warehouse. Once called Texas State Farms, now the TDCJ State Jail Units, Correctional Institutions Divisional Units. All units, commercial accounting, units categorized in divisions. Inside, the ritual, count time. Why do the correctional officers count the incarcerated offenders 12, 16, or 24 times a day? It's not just for security. It is inventory control. Accounting people as stock. You are the inventory. Stock reconciled. Scene 14. Trustees and trust fund accounts inside. Offenders become state-approved trustees. The word is fiduciary. Every Texas offender has a trust fund account. Deposits, withdrawals, balances, commissary, and outside third-party purchases through escrow. One trust established and operating for your time credited, and another trust for your funds. The warden, your ward of wards. Scene 15. Credits and debits equals time. Ledger time itself becomes accounting. Every day served is a debit. Good time. Work time. Education time, or bonus time, all credits. Misconduct. Disciplinary case. You get a chargeback, loss of privileges, loss of good time, loss of trustee status, or move to a more secured location to protect the inventory or the wardens of the wards. The prisoner's timesheet is a bank statement. Debits, credits, balance due. Scene 16. Parole and probation equals conditional credit. Parole or probation. Conditional credit extensions. Freedom on terms. The commodity. You are transferred from one division to another until the full term reaches maturity, 60 years. Covenants enforced. Break the covenant. Credit revoked. In finance, that's acceleration. In corrections, revocation. Same law, same teeth. Scene 17. Discharge equals release of debt. And finally, the word that closes the account, discharge. In bankruptcy, a debt is discharged. In prison, A sentence is discharged. Same word, same act, ledger closed, balance, now zero. I have paid my debt to society. Not a metaphor, just more bookkeeping of the parasitic juvenile delinquent bully called the State of Texas Incorporated, a for-profit corporation using slave labor by trafficking humans between persons, the county jail, to TDCJ State Jail, or TDCJ CID, and maybe to TDCJ Parole Division. In reality, our governments are not any more ethical or moral than the criminals that buy, sell, and trade humans for profit. Scene 18. Closing. The circus from complaint to discharge, from accusation to warehouse, from charge to credit, from term to maturity, from judgment to warehouse receipt. Every word is commercial. Every step is a transaction. The judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney. All bar members, all employed and paid by the same entity, the County of Harris, Texas, except your retained counsel, unless you get a court-appointed ultra-bozo the clown. And you are the collateral. This isn't justice. It's commerce. The only question left. To bill or to no bill? That is today's $25,000 question. The three-ring circus called the judicial system is clearly structured to win at any cost through misconduct, lies, misstating law, suppressing exculpatory evidence or testimony. There are three rings. The judge in one, the prosecutor in another, and finally, bozo, the clown, the hired gun you retain to defend you because you're mentally incompetent to handle your legal affairs. These court jesters act out this elaborate charade presenting truths, lies, and misdirection before a jury of your peers, but not really your peers. And you watch the elaborate performances with great expectations your hired gun will prevail. The only issue with that picture: your hired gun has an allegiance to the state bar and not to you, the client. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the topic and education, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and toggle the notification bell for new content. Leave a comment below about your experiences, legal remedies, or something missed in this video or can improve upon.
Thank you for hanging around after the show. I want to present to you Tailor-Made Trust, featuring LeFlore's Trust Series, available at tailormadetrust.com, as well as thefearlessfloydshow.com store. Here are a handful of the available trusts that can be built, custom tailored to your needs and desires. 25 different trusts, plus the DNA Trust Addendum. And as always, LeFlore's classic trusts and ancillary classes, and also Anne's books on trust and specialty trust, which I also co-authored. If you'd like to get a class, a book, or have a trust custom built for you, always available at thefearlessfloydshow.com store. And I'll see you in the next show. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.